Hey guys, this is something new that I'm going to start doing, and every week I'm going to try and do a review slash recap of a show that I watch. And I'm starting with this week with Arrow season 2 episode 14, which is titled Time of Death, and it introduced the Clock King, who is played by Robert Keeper, who was in Hunger Games, Catching Fire Part, or was the Mockingjay Part 1. And it starts out with a pretty nice high sequence. He's orchestrating everything, looking over it from his little mobile command center, telling them where to go at what time, when to get what places at what exact moment, and how fast to go and everything. And he pulls off everything without a hitch until he tells them to stop and wait when they set off an alarm. And instead of waiting, they decide, heck no, this guy's gonna get us caught, let's just go. And the second they go around the corner, security guard is right there. Shots gets fired and security guard gets killed. And then they escape, and just who might happen to be there but Detective Lance, or Officer Lance as he's nowadays known. And they get away still. They blend into a crowd of protesters, and they get away, and then it cuts to Oliver and Sarah and the rest of the gang down his little lair, and they're all exchanging war stories and everything, and talking about all the scars that they got and from various encounters in their past. And Felicity's just sitting on the sideline, and she's feeling kind of left out because she's the only non-combatant of the group. And then it comes back to Clock King and his little lackeys, and he's reprimanding them for what they did. And one of them was like, "No, we were risking jail time, so either you give us something, or we're gonna let us go." And he brandishes his gun at him. And unexpected for me, for the character, he takes out a little mini hand and he just stabs the guy right there on the floor, and does it in a very violent manner. And of course, he has a little time stop thingy on the side, and he stops right when it stops. He stops stabbing the guy right when it stops spinning. Then later on, it cuts to Sarah being thrown a party, a back from the dead party, by Oliver at his house, and him and his mom, obviously, since he now knows the secret about Thea's parentage as far as her father goes, they're at odds with each other, to say the least. And they have a little spat, but they break it off right before Thea walks up, and they're continuing to keep a facade of still being at peace with one another, but at some point this has to come to a head, and someone's going to let something slip about the other. Everyone's at the party but Laurel, which obviously makes Sarah feel horrible. And then they both get a call. Well, Detective Lance is there, and he gets the call, and at the same time, Felicity calls Oliver, both dealing with the case of a guy who just got stabbed with a mini hand stick out of his gut. Which, I'm sorry, but this guy is such a master criminal, and yet he lets a body get found that easily with such an obvious calling card. That's just stupid. I don't believe that anyone who's that smart will make such a stupid decision in actual life. And he just should have done a better job of disposing the body. And then it comes back into the cave with Felicity and Sarah. Felicity's in there punching, trying to work on her fighting skills a little bit. Sarah comes down, helps her out a bit, and they have a brief moment of bonding, but then is interrupted by Oliver and Diggle coming in. And after the little thing between Felicity and Sarah, it cuts to another heist where Oliver ends up stopping a bus full of people from getting rammed by a train, and Sarah goes and manages to get a little nick on the Clock King's head and make some blood fall out. He has a pretty deep wound, but he's still functioning fine. And then Oliver and Thea, back at the club, are talking about why he's been absent from home so much, and why he's been so distant from her and their mother, and he still wants to give the illusion that they still have some connection, which they still do. They're at least half siblings, but I don't know what Oliver's going through at the moment. But he says that they're still fine, but obviously Thea's smarter than that. She realizes what's going on, and she sets up a little situation later on for that. And then we get some insight on the object that was stolen earlier in the episode, it turns out it was some type of skeleton key that, for someone who's good with computers, like the Clock King is in this incarnation, can be retrofitted to open any bank vault anywhere in the city. So obviously that presents a huge problem. But then we found out later on that he's dying of a rare blood disease, and his wife, who has a rare lung disease, needs a lung transplant, and he's doing all this for her. So it's kind of due to the means 50 end situation, and in his eyes, yes, because all he has is time. Hence the name Clock King. That he manages to break into their computer network and destroys everything that with a screen that's hooked up to the internet. And at least Felicity shattered, to say the least. Now she's really like, I'm the one who's supposed to be setting up everything with the computer and the internet, and all this tech stuff is my responsibility. So it's obviously my fault that this happened. And Oliver and Sarah try to comfort her and help out, but she's just like, no, go, just leave me alone and I'll deal with this myself. And obviously just wants to be left alone, but Diggle stays and help her. So good job for you, Diggle. Token black dude. She and after Oliver and Sarah leave, she and Diggle have a little one-on-one with how she's been feeling as far as it concerns her usefulness to the group since Sarah got back, and she's been down in the dumps and she doesn't feel like she's been able to contribute anything of value besides just being the IT girl. But then it cuts to Oliver and Sarah, who go, after being shut out by Felicity, they go to a little dinner party at Laurel's house, which after a few words are exchanged, it turns out Officer Lance still wants to be with his wife now that he's kind of whole again, now that Sarah's come back. But it turns out his wife has started another life with another man. So that caused some drama, but not more than when Laurel later on in dinner realizes that Sarah and Oliver are back on the same terms as far as when they went on the boat, which is where they were together. Laurel gets mad, storms out. Oliver goes after her, and she tries to blame him for what's been happening to her lately. Then Oliver just throws all the bull that she's been putting out over the last few weeks since Tommy died back on her, saying that ever since he died, she's been trying to blame him for her drinking, getting fired, and all this, basically everything that's gone wrong in her life. And he just says that that's it, I'm done with you, and as far as friendship, I'm done. And he just leaves her alone right there. And after this, they set up a little trap for Clock King, where Oliver puts a hefty amount of money on the line, $800,000, I believe. And $800,000, if you're looking for a lung transplant, you're definitely going to go for something that big and obvious. And he falls for it, but Felicity is the one that springs the trap and tries to go and catch him. And at first, it looks like she's about to get shot up by his lackeys. But then it's just Diggle and the rest of them come to get her out of there before something bad happens. And that the heist does actually take place, but Felicity gets shot in the process, not taking a bullet for Sarah, but she doesn't die though. So, and I'm sorry that's a bit of a spoiler for you, but yeah, Felicity's still kicking her at the end of the episode. And Clock King gets taken down by Felicity, who uses his little Trojan horse that he used to get into their system to get back into his, and makes his cell phone go off and deliver kind of a shock to his system and knocks him out. They go back to the cave, and Felicity's sitting there. She's high on oxycodone, and she's sitting there telling, "Oh, I have a scar just like you guys now." And she has a little one of her moments where she kind of dribbles on incoherently, saying that she's Oliver's girl, but not his girl, but his girl. Then they go back upstairs. Just as Oliver's leaving after having a little conversation with Sarah, Laurel walks in, and Oliver just leaves trying as cool as you can. You know, they have a bonding moment as far as sisters, and it brings Sarah to tears, which makes Sin, who I don't know how the hell she got there, kind of coming like, well, I didn't think anything could make you cry. And it turns out on the island side of things that everything that's happened on the island turns up to how Sarah even ended up meeting Sin. It turns out a guy who crashed on the island after being shot down by Ivo and his men had a daughter who just happened to be Sin, and made Sarah promise to find out that she was okay since he was dying and likely wasn't going to get off the air alive. And he doesn't. And then it cuts back to the Queen household, and it makes this episode end in a major cliffhanger, which it turns out Moria has met Slade, and I don't know if I don't know if she knew him previously or she's just meeting him, but she knows him. He's in the house when Oliver gets there, and Moira introduces him to him. And Oliver has a look of, what are you doing here, on his face? You're supposed to be dead. So I'm guessing that in the next episode we're going to see probably not a huge thing between them, the two of them, since I'm guessing they're likely going to save him for the final episode like they did Malcolm Merlin in the first season. But the teaser for next episode shows a huge fight scene, so I'm guessing that he could potentially be involved in that somehow. But anyway, that's kind of just what happened in this episode. So I'll leave a link to the site that I'm working with, and hopefully we'll be able to work with in the future in the description below. I'll be posting these on YouTube and that site as well if I am able to work with them after this. So leave a like in the description below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the future. See ya.